Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to talk about the Tourmaline Ring, the newest ring that has just come out with the Golem event. Let's go ahead and dig in. I think lots of people are underestimating the power that the Tourmaline Ring does have on various maps in both PvP, GVG, arena, type of situation. Even in some PvE situations, I think it's a very powerful ring. Coming with jump +1, dex +20%, you can even get the aim version, which I would recommend for accuracy +10. It seems like it's going to mostly be a dexterity piece. And, you know, what I would kind of classify it as is not necessarily a dexterity piece, but kind of a piece of gear that enables you to control the AI and manipulate the AI to do what you want to do in different situations. A great example of this would be buff order. Specifically, I think about the Graveyard 3 map, which I have on screen right now. If you've ever played on the Graveyard 3 map, the Graveyard 3 map has 3 different regions where your characters are deployed. And this is, of course, assuming that you aren't able to do initial deployment. It would be like a guild battle situation or an arena situation. But when your characters are deployed, they're all put on a range height to pillar, kind of spread out from each other. And the only way to get down from that pillar is either to have a jump of 2 or to move forward and kind of go towards the enemy and down the stairs, and either turn at the bottom to kind of go towards your ally. And when you have a situation like this, the buff order gets a little wonky and it gets a little bit difficult to control, especially if you're wanting to land re-raise on the proper unit, if you're wanting to make sure that your buffs roll out, because all of a sudden, if your units are moving forward, they might be in aggro range of the enemies, so their AI would change. So this is a great situation where I would say having access to Tourmaline Ring for that jump +1 on turn 1 is a great way to kind of control the AI to make sure that you get the buffs that you need on your characters. You can kind of tune and adjust it the way you want to do it. And it's really one of the only ways you would be able to do that. Probably the only other way you could do this would be with like advanced agility tuning, or potentially like redeploying your characters or setting like Shikuchi instead. But this is for characters like Yuna, for example, or maybe other kind of healer and support units that you want to get these buffs off right away, but you might not be able to have access to the characters. There are a couple other maps that I actually think about this with, and pretty much all of them are going to have jump related areas. And this could be, for example, involving your first turn. I think most recently in Class Match, just, you know, quite recently, if I can pull up the right Class Match map here. It's always, you know, I haven't actually gone through all of these maps in a long time. And so actually having to click through them and figuring out which map was our Class Match is a little bit difficult because they are actually hard to see. I would assume it would have been the most recently added one, but it's not. And it's one of the ones, here it is. Is it Leonis Castle? It is Leonis Castle. Okay, so this is a great example of how this could help you in Class Match. When you were initially deploying your units, you could deploy them off to the left side, you could deploy them off to the right side. If you wanted to keep your units back line, you could deploy, say, Jaden and Fina on the back end of this map, and you could put Warrior of Light up here. Now, while we don't have the Tourmaline Ring yet, Warrior of Light does have access to jump +1, which does mean that Warrior of Light would be able to kind of move right in to the enemy's area and kind of trigger an attack in the middle of their buffs to kind of stop the enemy from buffing up and hyper buffing, and they'll focus on attack, right? This is something that is a pretty easy strategy to implement, but you do need to have jump +1. So if you have a unit like Warrior of Light, you could set this, you could, you know, set a different passive instead of jump +1, and you could kind of reap the benefits of that dex +20% and that accuracy plus. While maybe not defending you from status ailments, it is still going to be a nice sort of bonus to his accuracy and to his offensive capabilities. Another map that we could talk about is also Wastelands, of course, particularly if you're running a tank on the right side of the map. You know, that initial run forward and kind of push down the cliff face. Jump 2 tanks and units are very effective on this map. particularly if you have it in a first turn, is absolutely possible. And I mean, honestly, you can just go through a variety of these maps and really just kind of pick them apart in terms of what map jump is going to be useful on. When do you need that jump +1 right away, right? Castle interior could also be a possibility. There's just so many options where jump +1 is useful that I really think people are underestimating the utility and the viability of the Tourmaline Ring. Now, I'm not saying you need to have, 5+5 versions. That, of course, would be ideal. Like, I was able to farm a +5 relatively quickly when I was farming the Golem event. But, of course, if you can get at least 3 of these at +5 for the Dex 20% jump up 1, it's going to be pretty powerful. Now, there's also the thing to consider that Dex Up is a huge modifier for Rangers. It's a modifier for crit. It's a modifier for accuracy. It's a modifier that is just one of those core stats that is really powerful. And I always go back to kind of the Ildira VC that gives water units Dex Up. You can see it right now with a lot of other vision cards. I think it's Jaden's right now that gives Dexterity Up as well, where having that Dex Up is a very fast way to increase your damage. Not only does it help you guarantee critical hit rates, it helps you with your accuracy. It helps you with, depending on your unit, your attack modification, right? Because some units, like Rangers, have a 30% mod from dexterity as well as the regular mod from attack. So they benefit from having higher dexterity. So overall, I'm sold on this piece of gear. I don't think it's going to be life-changing, life-altering for a lot of people, but I do think it's going to be one of those pieces of equipment where when you do have it, when you need it, when you're on a map that requires having access to jump +1, this is going to be the piece of gear you set, right? How many times have you been on a map where Warrior of Light has excelled because he has access to that jump +1 on turn 1? I can think of multiple times where I have chosen to use Warrior of Light over any other tank in that situation, sometimes any other unit as well, just because he has access to that jump +1 and can reach a spot that is required of him either to trigger the AI to do something or to trigger the enemy units to take a turn. And I think that is also important when we are thinking about PvE as well. You think about all of the maps where, you are deployed in a situation where you need that jump +1 to get up on another level. That is a really good way to manipulate the AI, right? If you're able to move your tank forward and up a level before your other units would have normally been able to get there, if you're able to pop like Brave Presence, for example, you're going to be able to trigger that AI to come forward. You're going to be able to control the positioning of that AI, and thus you're kind of going to be able to control the fight. So I really think, the community as a whole right now is really underestimating the power of the Tourmaline Ring. And I think it's one of those pieces of gear where, there's going to be an event coming where you're going to need to have this and you don't. And it's just going to kill you. Very similar to Ramza for me. I also think if you're a new player, this is a very good piece of gear for your ranged units. If you are running a ranged composition, particularly if you weren't able to get the Diamond Coat, right? Diamond Coat, of course, being probably the best secondary piece of gear for any Ranger because it has missile attack resistance, piercing rate up, and acquired AP up. But a lot of people might not have been able to get access to that in the last raid. If you're a newer player and you are running some ranged compositions, if you are running Jaden, for example, and maybe you didn't get this, that could be a good alternative to set on your character. So hopefully I was able to make the kind of case for Tourmaline Ring to you guys. I'm really interested to know what you think down in the comment section down below. And I hope you guys all have, honestly, a good rest of your day. I hope you guys are going to turn out for the tournament here this Saturday. Oran and I are super excited. And the winners should be announced here Friday afternoon. So I hope you guys are ready. Stay by your Discords. If you voted for me, you have a chance to be one of the 10 people to represent me in the tournament, or one of the 10 backups, because we do have to have backups. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.